Welcome back to the Gunpla Network. I'm Murdoch, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'd like to preface this video by noting that our sponsor for today is none other than Bandai Namco itself. They were kind enough to reach out to us and offer us a copy of Mobile Suit Gundam SEED Battle Destiny Remastered to review. Try saying that 3 times fast. So, with that out of the way, let's have a look at this revitalized product. A fresh take on a Vita-era classic that's finally making its way to a global audience. And yes, I say Vita, not Vita. Don't hate me. Don't at me in the comments. I'm watching. Anyway, so originally this game was released in 2012. This remaster brings visual upgrades, expanded mechanics, and wider accessibility. But does it hold up in 2025? As someone who played the old predecessors, Gundam SEED Never-Ending Tomorrow, Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam Encounters in Space, all games, from the PlayStation 2 era back in the early aughts, this game immediately feels familiar. And that's not a bad thing. Bandai Namco has blended the best elements of its SEED-era Gundam titles to create a package that is both nostalgic and modern. The campaigns closely follow the anime and manga storylines, branching based on the player's loyalty choices. Cosmic Era 71 and 73 take center stage, with side stories encompassing groups like Rehome and Serpentail making subtle appearances. Fans will appreciate seeing familiar characters pop up. Jean Carey is a mainstay, and Ed the Ripper lurks within EX missions, for example. While the game glosses over some minor story beats, it doubles down on the major battles and faction conflicts that define SEED. At first, combat feels slow and clunky, but that works in its favor. It reminds you that you're piloting a massive, multi-ton war machine. The early game pacing is deliberately rigid, especially if you're using a custom pilot character with low initial stats, because they all start that way. One feature from Never-Ending Tomorrow, the attack cam, is still here, unfortunately. While it's not quite as intrusive as it was in the previous game, having your third-person view jolted into a melee animation can feel unnecessary at times. Controls are heavily geared toward controllers, so if you're picking this up for a Nintendo Switch, do yourself a favor and use a Pro controller. Similarly on PC, keyboard and mouse play is extremely awkward, which even Steam warns you about upon launch and suggests pick up a controller and plug it in. Or, if you want to go extremely hardcore, you do what one of my friends does. You know who you are. And you bolt 2 joysticks to your chair for that real, authentic Gundam piloting experience. As for in-game mechanics, the tuning system is crucial. It lets grunt mobile suits approach Gundam tier performance, while Gundam and higher-end mobile suits can become near unstoppable. Of course, tuning comes with a price. Higher deployment costs and fewer redeployments per mission, which means fewer times to try again when you get killed because Jesus Yamato decides to beam spam you to death. Yeah, Kira got me a few times. It wasn't pretty. The pilot progression system mirrors classic PS2 era customization. At first, your skill set is limited, but abilities unlock and expand based on playstyle and mission performance. You can swap skills before missions, optimizing for survivability, enemy takedowns, or specific objectives. Personally, I like hunting down aces and battleships, and there are perks just to do that. The Versus missions offer a form of multiplayer, but I wouldn't exactly call it multiplayer per se. Don't expect competitive matchmaking or structured co-op. Instead, the game treats it more like a battle sandbox, allowing players to pit mobile suits against each other and themselves under different conditions. While it's an interesting way to test unit capabilities, it doesn't fundamentally expand on the gameplay experience. That said, the Versus missions do let you gain character stat growth, giving them some progression value, but overall this feels more like an extra feature they added in after the fact for like testing matchups and settling debates than a true multiplayer offering. This game thrives on replayability. Choosing your allegiances at pivotal moments alters the story outcomes and mobile suit availability. This makes every campaign feel dynamic, especially for completionists chasing down alternate endings, or just trying to get all of the mobile suits. Because I know I want to get all the mobile suits, but that's just me. There's over 100, so yeehaw. During my first playthrough, I made the mistake of setting my custom character as a natural, sticking to SEED's main story beats. That quickly put me at a disadvantage once higher tier Gundams entered the battlefield. Fortunately, character progression offers workarounds letting you mitigate natural limitations through smart upgrades and just sheer leveling up your pilot to try and overcome that stat difference that you take a hit on every time you pilot a machine not made for naturals. Because that's one thing I can appreciate lore-wise and canonically, is that they made it authentic, and coordinators are indeed superior when it comes to piloting mobile suits, and they don't have that built-in handicap that naturals have. Anyway, moving on. As a PS Vita remaster, expectations should be tempered. This game isn't a full-blown overhaul, but it nails the essentials. Since from what I can tell, this remaster was originally aimed for the Nintendo Switch, the optimization choices reflect that hardware. As a result, PC players will notice that the system resource draw is minimal, keeping performance smooth on even older machines. While I haven't tested the Switch version myself, the game's remastered design seems tailored for handheld play, ensuring it runs efficiently without demanding high-end specs. On PC, performance scales well. On high-end rigs, it barely touches system resources, and even on older hardware, it remains playable with lower settings. For example, I tested the game on my old MSI Phantom, a laptop running a Core i7-6700 with an NVIDIA GTX 970M. With settings dialed to a minimum and resolution shrunk down, and everything pushed into toaster mode, essentially, it still ran reasonably. I could still play it at 30 frames a second. Essentially recreating the original PlayStation Vita experience rather than a full remaster. That being said, the underlying tweaks they made it to make the game a little bit more doable, because I seem to recall reading somewhere that it was harder originally, at least in terms of the requirements for unlocking certain things. It's that part still works great. So, is Mobile Suit Gundam SEED Battle Destiny Remastered worth picking up? If you're a longtime SEED fan, this is kind of a no-brainer, and you're probably looking like a certain guy from the 31st century holding up his wallet saying, "Take my money," because this is a rock-solid nostalgia trip offering refined mechanics, deep customization, and very strong replayability. If you've never touched a Gundam game before, the clunky early game and controller-reliant setup may take some getting used to, but honestly, it's not that bad. It really isn't. Overall, it's a faithful remaster, not a radical transformation, but one that knows its audience and delivers a worthwhile experience. That's all for this particular review. So, until next time, I'm Murdoch, and on behalf of the Gunpla Network, keep building.